The Heavenly Demon. Can't Live a Normal Life. By Sanchin. Chapter 68. Unofficial Rancor. Part 1. Before dark, Willis managed to reach Dimitri. He was allowed to meet with Baron Romero right away under the supervision of a guard after disclosing the reason and his identification at the checking point. "I am Romero Dimitri. Are you from the Temple of Valhalla?" "Yes. My name is Willis. I am a priest of the Valhalla Temple's Cairo branch. As I stated at the checking point near the gate, I heard about the rumors of Roman Dimitri defeating Homer, who was ranked 49 in the rankings. I have no obligation from Valhalla to check an unofficial ranking match, but since it was such an unusual case, I wanted to come and check with the involved person to see whether it can be reflected in the ranking." "That's such good news. Welcome to Dimitri." Baron Romero couldn't hide his joy. It was because of the ranking verification for a member of the Dimitri family. A family with a rancor, even if it was the lowest ranker, was bound to get recognized by the whole world. And Dimitri had a short history compared to other noble families. As Baron Romero was the first of the family, they didn't have anything like the element of fame and honor except the resources in their land. But what if Roman Dimitri was accepted as a rancor? If such a thing became a reality, then from then on, even the noble society around them would have no choice but to acknowledge the power of the Dimitri family. Moreover, it wasn't just anyone. Wasn't Roman the eldest son of the family? While Baron Romero came out to serve the guests, he sent a servant to bring Roman. However, the servant returned with a troubled expression on his face. "Lord Hans, the servant in charge of young Master Roman, said that the young master has cut off all outside communication and is busy working within the forge. What do you want me to do? If it is important enough for the work to be halted, Hans said he would bring young Master Roman himself." "No. It is fine." When he heard Roman was working in the forge, a smile bloomed on Baron Romero's face. After talking to Hendrik, he found out that Roman had the skills and interest to be a blacksmith. It was such a joy to him. It was good enough to prove that the family's eldest son was entitled to inherit it. Thus, Baron Romero didn't want to call Roman while he was in the middle of performing his duties, even if it was a visit from the Valhalla Temple, which would significantly raise the status of the family. Baron Romero said, "Priest, I am sorry, but it is late today, so how about taking some rest and meeting with Roman tomorrow? As soon as Roman finishes his work, I will let him know that the priest wants to meet him." "I understand. Today or tomorrow wasn't much of a problem." Baron Romero smiled at Willis, who nodded his head. "Since things have turned out like this, why not take a look around Dimitri? I will give you a guide, so you can freely take a look around the mansion. It will be a good way to pass the time." Most don't have much to do when they visit others, so Willis didn't turn down the offer. He was then guided around by Hans. It was so that he could take him to Roman when the time came. And in the meantime, Hans explained about Dimitri. The Dimitri family has the largest iron mine in the Cairo kingdom and even produces the highest quality iron. If you look around, you can see that the fortress is built of iron and is pretty sturdy. The same goes for the gates as well. Because of the fortified gates and walls, this land can even be called non-penetrable. Hans continued explaining the history and features of the Dimitri estate calmly. Walking down the street, he kept talking about Dimitri's unique characteristics, as well, and Willis followed him as he listened. Actually, Willis didn't want to pay him even the slightest bit of his attention. He was hearing his words from one ear and throwing them out from the other. He was just too immersed in his own thoughts. A formidable swordsman who was powerful enough to defeat Homer was born in such a frontier? I could understand if the Dimitri family was a family of knights with a long history, but it doesn't make sense for a swordsman to come out of a land that only developed in mining. Moreover, as it's the family's eldest son who got such an achievement, there is a high chance that the nobles would have manipulated or exaggerated the rumors of defeating Homer. It was quite obvious. The ranking was an honorable position. Many individuals attempted to take credit for fake deeds, and they all shared the trait of never participating in an actual ranking battle. An unofficial ranking match based on commoners present was their only source. There was a reason why Valhalla never embraced such information. How far did he walk? When he arrived at what seemed like a training ground, he heard the passionate voices of many people. 1. 2. 2. A group of people was training. It naturally made Willis' eyes gleam. As he was born in Valhalla Empire, he was more interested in the current scene than the history of an old-fashioned family. Ordinary soldiers? They didn't look like knights. The reason was that the members who were training were of different ages, and among them, even a person who looked like a child was there. A knight was not a position a young child could have. As the characteristics were not similar, then it meant that they were most likely conscripted. Willis asked, "Can I watch their training for a moment?" "I will ask them." At Willis' question, Hans ran to the man who looked like the captain. The captain glanced at Willis and nodded as if it didn't matter. "It is fine to watch from a distance." "Thank you." He went to a shaded place and sat down. Still, even back then, Willis' feelings for watching the training were just because of curiosity. After they completed the basic training, Chris, the one in charge of the training, said, "Today, we will conduct spars amongst ourselves. Match up with one another and start at the signal." "Yes." Everyone moved in unison. Due to Lucas' departure, the number of people had decreased by 1, and now, there were 30 people, including Kevin. Thus, 30 soldiers meant 15 spars at the same time. It was a familiar training for the soldiers, so they competed against their assigned opponents in order. Tack. Tuck. In the first spar, a group of people ran toward each other. The short man made the first attack, and the opponent countered it without even retreating. He then quickly aimed for vital points such as arms. In an instant, they countered several times. The two were looking at each other without even blinking their eyes. Even though the sound of wooden swords hitting was terrifying, they kept their eyes open. Kong. Cocking. Their weapons clashed so much. The attacks got more threatening with each passing second. Rather than simply attacking the visible body part, they were calmly blocking the enemy's attack and inducing the situation to attack the opponent's vital points. And what if the opponent showed a gap? Even though it was a risk, they rushed forward. Obviously, it was a battle using wooden swords, but it was still so fierce that he couldn't consider it even a bit easy. It was no different with the other pairs. All the soldiers began to spar. They fought fiercely, not showing any signs of concession, as if they were in a gladiator fight. "Everyone, focus. Look straight at your opponent," Chris exclaimed. When they were first recruited by Roman, they were at a higher level than normal soldiers, but by Chris standards, they were nothing more than clumsy people. But it was utterly different now. The physical growth they achieved due to the technique Chris taught them was enormous. And above everything else, the soldiers who learned the Azura technique began to turn aggressive. The Azura sword technique was a technique that provided the answers to all situations, such as when attacked overhead, when attacked to the side and when attacked on the leg. They were taught to counter by blocking or avoiding, and the Azura technique allowed them to maximize their movements. The current situation was the result of them dripping blood and sweat daily. Everyone's faces that were bruised from being hit by the wooden sword were finally restored, and they watched the opponent's movements until the end, recalling the technique they had learned. And then, they performed the right counterattack once they saw the opportunity. Even though winning or losing wasn't important here, none of the soldiers were acting complacent as if it was okay to lose. And, among them, there was one who fought most fiercely. He was the main character among the soldiers, Kevin. He was the small guy whom Willis considered a child soldier, but his fighting style was entirely different from his physique. Swoosh! With the most minute movements, he dodged all the attacks of his opponent. Kevin would first let his opponent's attack reach close to his body with bold actions and would lean back, after which he would take a step ahead or hit his opponent's vital points. Nevertheless, the speed of the wooden sword was unbelievably fast. The attack time was always short with the unique way he held the sword in his hand, and he kept simultaneously attacking him. Tack. Tack tack. All of his attacks were blocked. Kevin's opponent was also a formidable person. Like Lucas, he was a mercenary. His name was Pookie, and he had a shaved head. "Kevin, are you going to ignore your defense like that?" Pookie asked while smiling. His head glistened in the sun. The tattoo originating from the top of his head was terrifying, but Kevin wasn't startled by it. "I will see if you can say that once I win." Quack. Quack. He struck the side of his opponent with a fist. Pookie's body looked like it could take many hits, but one hit from Kevin made his expression distorted. This is why everyone didn't like when they heard they had to fight with Kevin. Roman told him to do his best, so even in just spars, Kevin performed too seriously, as if he could never allow himself to be defeated. Seeing Kevin fight as if the spar was a real battle, Pookie growled, "Right, let's do it like this." From then onward, it turned into a serious battle rather than just a spar. Pookie daringly attacked the vital point that could even end Kevin's life, and even when he was walking on thin ice, Kevin didn't back down. He was always in a position to run toward his opponent. While maintaining the distance to attack Pookie to the end, he avoided his opponent's fierce counterattack with minimal movements. Hook. Kevin's eyes gleamed red. Ghost illusion demonic martial arts. Cold sweat constantly dripped down Pookie's forehead due to Kevin's relentless and ruthless attacks. This brat. The one who became Roman's first soldier was Kevin. It was something that genuinely surprised people. He was a boy who didn't look much on the outside. However, he was also the one who showed the most aggressive fighting style and battle forms. Was it because they could never cross the wall known as churs? The soldiers, just like Pookie, wanted to defeat Kevin as fast as they could, and they then began to rapidly aim to develop themselves due to the sense of competition. Just then. Thuck. Immediately after the strike, both sides showed loopholes. For a moment, they both looked at each other. Now, it didn't matter who came first. The energy of mana arose from both of their wooden swords, and they both rushed toward each other instantly. It was clear. That energy was a one-star aura. Chapter 69. Unofficial Rancor. Part 2. Roman had recruited 30 private soldiers due to the enlistment notice. Still, there was not a single aura swordsman among them. Pookie was only a C-class mercenary, one level lower than Lucas, and he heard something incomprehensible the first day Roman taught him. "You are born boneless." Even back then, he didn't realize what Roman meant by that. And after the war, Roman's enlisted men learned the Azura technique, and Pookie, who stepped into the new world, developed quickly. His speed of learning was different from others. If a soldier beside him was someone who felt difficulty in accepting mana, Pookie was someone who naturally accepted it. Manifestation of mana, while most people took years to learn and couldn't succeed at it even then, Pookie could do it in less than a month. It was such a huge thing. In the beginning, people like Lucas doubted the technique they were being taught. No matter how wealthy Dimitri was, they didn't think that Roman would give such a huge technique to ordinary soldiers. That was common sense. However, after experiencing the technique firsthand and seeing Pookie succeed, they all changed their mind. The Azura technique our liege has given us is truly incredible. Roman's gift was a treasure that they wouldn't be able to buy even if they had billions of coins. Yes, it could be that Pookie had extraordinary talent, being the reason he succeeded in manifesting aura. Still, as they were those who had experienced the Azura cultivation technique, they understood it wasn't simply because of Pookie's talent. It didn't make sense the technique didn't help him even in the slightest. Soon enough, they themselves started feeling the mana around their bodies. Thus, they were able to solve something that normal people had the most difficulty in while understanding the process of learning about aura. Accordingly, things had changed. They all understood that if one put in the effort just like Pookie, they could become aura swordsmen as well. Also, there was another one who had succeeded and proved himself, Kevin. That improved the attitude and morale of Roman soldiers even further. Everyone risked their lives to become strong and get over the wall blocking their growth. Naturally, that vicious atmosphere created a sense of competition, and the extreme clash between Kevin and Pookie was the result of such things. Kong. Rumble. When two people's aura clashed, the sound was so different. When the air sucked in and exploded at one, those fighting around them turned their eyes in astonishment. Try to stop this. Kwang. Pookie moved with magnificent force. Kevin was the one who had manifested aura earlier, but Pookie still had the upper hand due to his physical build. He had a huge physique and muscles as strong as armor. His explosive attacks created a synergy with the power of aura, and Kevin had no choice but to be pushed back due to those attacks. Nevertheless, Kevin's expression didn't change. Even the slightest mistake could lead to death, but Kevin didn't run away. Look at him. Among the soldiers, Kevin was known as Ghost. There were various reasons for that. He had extraordinary growth, an unpredictable fighting style, a unique sword technique whose movements reminded them of a ghost, but the biggest reason was the boldness he showed while attacking his enemy, as if he had several lives left even if he died. It made their mouths dry. Although many battles had been held in the past, not once had Romans enlisted soldiers seen Kevin take a step behind in fear. Kevin was someone who had cut off his own arm. As he clenched his teeth and endured the pain back then, the feeling of fear utterly vanished from his mind. I need to win. A defeat was not allowed. Even if it was, Kevin was still jealous of the fact that Chris was more important to Roman than Kevin himself. And if, instead of surpassing Chris, he got defeated by Pookie, it would be a huge shame for him to live with. Kevin had met his savior in a situation where his life was being trampled on, and to repay the kindness, he always lashed out at himself that he had to be stronger than he was now. Tack. Kevin countered the opponent's attack. Seeing Kevin rushing in, Pookie quickly retrieved his sword and attacked after he anticipated his opponent's actions. Pookie's counterattack was fast. If that attack hit him like this, Kevin's head would split instantly. It was literally a situation where one hit would end the battle. Still, even though his own life was at risk, Kevin didn't think of avoiding that attack and moved ahead. Swish! The sword extended from Kevin's hand and aimed right below Pookie's chin. Pookie's eyes fluttered wide, seeing the attack aimed at such a vital spot. He had to decide, will he attack Kevin and defeat him first? Or will he give up on attacking and defend Kevin's attack? If this was a real battle, Pookie would undoubtedly choose the former to win, but he didn't want to risk his life recklessly in a spar. Damn it. Kong. So he blocked the attack. The unstable form shook his balance, and Kevin slammed Pookie down, knocking him down. The fight ended with that. As Pookie came to his senses and lifted his head, a cool sensation could be felt on his neck. Do you have to do this? You try risking your life too. Then you will know that I wasn't wrong. Pookie looked at Kevin with tired eyes. Seeing that, Kevin retrieved his sword and stood up. The fight was finished. Naturally, all of it was seen by Willis, who was utterly stunned now. At first, he had just decided to watch the soldiers on the outskirts fighting purely because of his mild curiosity. He wanted to check out how they trained and what level they were at. And so he watched it. The training was shocking right from the start. What am I looking at? The soldiers who were sparring had unusual movements. Ordinary soldiers would only wield and block, but the ones he was seeing right now were quite different. As if they were veteran and seasoned swordsmen, they aimed for the vital points of their opponent with every single attack. Their movements of dodging and attacking were incredibly efficient and quick as well. Willis unknowingly clenched his fist as he continued to watch them. Admiration rose from within him. They were showing perfect sword techniques. Seeing the sword technique that systematically pushed the opponent, he doubted whether these people were truly ordinary soldiers. All the soldiers are using the same sword technique, and the perfection of sword technique is literally excellent. Moreover, the atmosphere of just sparring and training is so intense, as if they are fighting in a real battle. Is this the level a baron's family on the outskirts of the Valhalla Empire could show? No. It is as if I am looking at a miniature version of Valhalla Empire itself. Valhalla was like this. There were warlike people who risked their lives in countless battles. Like those who fought while giving it their all, Roman soldiers also exchanged blows without retreating even a single bit. Just then, Kevin and Pookie's fight escalated. Finally, aura emerged from both of their swords. That was a truly shocking scene. The fact that someone who looked like a child could use aura caught Willis' attention. No way. The two auras were different from his common sense. They were literally insane. Usually, aura was like an explosive force that unleashed power in an instant, but Kevin and Pookie's aura was so weak that Willis, at first, doubted if that really was aura. He even thought it was a joke of an aura. He wanted to check the auras with some magic artifact, but the moment the two auras collided, his mouth was opened so wide as if he was inviting birds to come and build a nest there. Kong. Rumble. The wind blew intensely. Even though he was at quite a distance, he could feel how strong the clash of the two soldiers was, and he understood that the power of aura was much stronger than it was supposed to be. This was beyond his common sense. His head began to spin. The aura of these soldiers was too puzzling. These are definitely not just ordinary soldiers. Perhaps they are the Knights Templar which the Dmitri family has put a lot of effort into nurturing. But since when did the Dmitri family gain such power? While I researched Roman Dmitri all this time, I confirmed that Dmitri was the dominant force in the northeast region, but still, this isn't a power they should have. Even the central government of Cairo doesn't have such power. I heard that Dmitri is famous for its mining, so how the hell am I witnessing such things here? Priest. Is Dmitri really a mining town? He heard the voice of the apostle. He, too, was no different from Willis. He had also researched the Dmitri family, but what he had witnessed just now was utterly different from what he had expected. Willis answered, I am also doubting what I am seeing. What is certain is that they are not ordinary soldiers. I heard there is a knighthood in Dmitri, so these must be the Dmitri knights that belong to the family. That was an inference that was within his common sense. He couldn't think of them as just soldiers now. However, Hans, who was listening to them, said, they are not from the Dmitri Knights. The Dmitri Knights exist separately, and the people you see now are the soldiers who follow young Master Roman Dmitri only. They do not belong to the family, and they have sworn allegiance only to young Master Roman. Hearing those words, Willis fell into shock once again. Valhalla was known as the Empire of Warriors. Even the place that was known to have the most powerful soldiers in the entire world didn't have soldiers who were as strong as those he had just witnessed. These are ordinary soldiers? Even passing dogs would laugh at that. Soldiers? They were pieces to be abandoned on a battlefield. Contrary to Roman soldiers, ordinary soldiers weren't treated excellently, and nor did they possess skills strong enough to exchange blows fiercely with others. They were just people who fell down screaming after 1 or 2 hits. Even Valhalla had such soldiers. The soldiers of Valhalla had superior combat power, but they didn't show qualities like the soldiers of Roman. It turned Willis speechless. Dmitri was a fairly new state. Far from being a prestigious family in the empire, Dmitri should barely have had any skills to nurture soldiers. However, Willis' common sense was utterly shattered by what he had just seen. After the training finished, Willis asked questions to Hans, who was guiding him back to his room. Where did you recruit these soldiers from? Not everyone can be this talented. Was a lot of money paid to get them? Or did they become apprentices while preparing to become knights? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for regular soldiers to use aura. The level of soldiers was quite high. Truthfully, Kevin and Pookie weren't weak enough to be called just soldiers. They knew how to openly manifest aura, and what kind of crazy person would use such talented people as just soldiers? If they were truly in a soldier's position, they should have quit right away while thinking they were being treated unfairly. He thought that any man with common sense would realize it. Nevertheless, Han's next words shattered Willis' common sense, once again. "I don't know why you are asking such a question, but if you are referring to Kevin and Pookie, they weren't Aura users until a while ago. Kevin came from the slums, and young Master Roman personally picked him up. Also, Pookie was a C-class mercenary. After seeing the announcement of young Master Roman enlisting soldiers, he decided to swear his allegiance and become a soldier of young Master Roman. They only got stronger after being taught by young Master Roman. Isn't that amazing? The next successor of Dmitri has the eye to recognize the true talents in people. It's such a blessing for Dmitri." Han's voice was raised to the max. It was as if Roman Dmitri was someone he was immensely proud of. Nevertheless, Willis stopped walking at the praise. The landscape around was dim. It was truly a unique atmosphere. Before he had arrived in Dmitri, he had decided that there could be no human who could have defeated Homer in the city of mining. However, that thought had changed utterly now. "Roman Dmitri, just who the hell are you?" The meeting was postponed to tomorrow. He told Baron Romero that one day's time wasn't much, but if he was being honest, he wanted to meet Roman as soon as possible. The protagonist of this story, Roman Dmitri. Just who was he? The only way to confirm the truth about the things that had utterly shattered his common sense was to talk to Roman Dmitri. Chapter 70. Unofficial Rancor. Part 3. The next day, Willis, who arrived in the waiting room first, waited for Roman with an excited face. "Are we finally going to meet?" Yesterday evening, Willis had a lot of trouble sleeping. It was because of the shock Roman soldiers gave him. Just like the warriors of Valhalla, they showed a militant and combative force, and the sword technique that drove the opponent into a corner could not be classified as a low-level sword technique. As a priest of Valhalla, he was sure of it as he had seen many strong individuals. If the strength of soldiers was derived from Roman, Roman could be a man who was as strong as the rumors said. Roman Dmitri. Are you a sleeping dragon who never got the chance to shine, or are you a hero who likes to show off? The sure thing was that he would get to check it himself. Willis took a sip of tea. It wasn't the appointment time yet, so he waited calmly, and the time came as the door opened. Young Master Roman has come. Tack. He put down the teacup. His heart was pounding intensely. Finally. Who is Roman Dmitri? The moment he finally checked the man who had just arrived, oh. Unknowingly, he let out an exclamation. The unwavering walk and his attitude of naturally looking down on Willis, along with a relaxed expression, Willis, who developed an observant eye after meeting a lot of people, was convinced of one thing by looking at Roman. He's definitely a person accustomed to living his life as someone powerful. It was true. He now thought Roman Dmitri could have actually defeated Homer. He just somehow believed it. And then, he went to the main point. Is it true that you defeated Homer? It is true. Roman's answer was blunt, as if it wasn't a big deal. Seeing Roman's reaction, Willis gulped. You don't seem to understand the complexity of what you have done yet. Homer isn't just someone strong who was ranked 49th, but he was someone who was expected to get rank 30 or higher soon enough because he had reached 4-star. And you killed such a man. You, who are only 25 years old, Roman Dmitri. Do you understand what that means? Actually, Homer's defeat wasn't that shocking now. What was shocking was that the one who had defeated Homer was only 25 years old. That was also what made Willis come to Dmitri. The strong man who defeated Homer at the age of 25. It is shocking that you have reached the level of 3-star in just your 20s, but if we check and you turn out to be 4-star, then undoubtedly, you are the greatest talent in the entire history of the Cairo Kingdom. Therefore, as the Temple of Valhalla, we decided that it was necessary to determine whether that is true or not. I understand what you mean. Roman leaned back on the chair and crossed his legs. You are going round and round about saying that what I have done is something which doesn't make sense. Say it clearly. As a priest of Valhalla has come to Dmitri, doesn't it mean you have a clear purpose? Yes. He had to be straightforward now. Without wasting any more time, it was time to confirm the truth. Thus, Willis said, firstly, before confirming the truth, let me tell you about the ranking process. Ranked matches are divided into official and unofficial ones. In official ranked matches, your strength is proved by getting permission from the Valhalla temple and defeating your opponent in front of them. Winning or losing in the official ranked match will set your rank right away, and although the ranking will be announced early next year, an ID will be given to prove that you are ranked. If you had defeated Homer in an official ranked match, you would have been given an ID as proof, and it would have been announced to the world that a new 49th ranker was born in the Cairo kingdom. The problem was the match between Roman and Homer was an unofficial ranked match. Unlike official ranked matches, unofficial ranked matches results were only spread through words from the mouths of normal people. Unofficial battle is a term that was created due to sudden confrontations against rankers. If someone defeats a ranker in an unofficial match, the position would be moved ahead by 1 level after 1 year due to the vacancy. An unofficial victory can never bring the winner into the rankings. But after the confrontation is over, if it is proven that the man is strong and deserves to be ranked, then he will be placed into the rankings that will be given after the other rankers are pushed ahead. The conclusion was simple. Roman defeated Homer in an unofficial ranked match. If what Willis said was true, it meant that he would get the 100th rank, not Homer's. Actually, there is no way to prove that you are the one who defeated Homer. Since the Valhalla temple only believes what it sees, it cannot believe the mouths of others, even if hundreds witnessed it. Therefore, to check the qualification unofficially, we use an aura meter. It provides proof simply. If we use this meter and you pass the criteria we set for the ranker, you will be ranked as someone worthy of the last rank in the rankings. Still, at this time, unlike the official match, no ID will be issued. It is impossible to know when things change and when the list of rankers is announced. Thus, the lowest rankers, that is, those around rank 100, are bound to fall prey to others, so we give them a safety time. The explanation ended with that. Now, it was time to check the truth with aura meter. Looking at Willis, who wanted an answer, Roman asked, "Is there any reason one has to rank like that?" "Well, if I were to be ranked down as a ranker, I would say it's worth it. For someone who is in the position of a swordsman, I would think it is worth it. It's something that helps one spread their name in the world. Even if there are no special rewards, wouldn't it be worth taking the risk for the sake of honor?" Grin. Roman smiled. He remembered that even in Murim, there was a ranking system just like this. And as he saw many people risking their lives for it, Roman understood Willis. However, spreading one's name far and wide in the world and showing their abilities could not always be considered a good thing. When one showed others their abilities, the eyes that followed them would create variables. Nevertheless, I don't like having credentials verified through ways like an aura meter. Rather, bring me a new opponent. It doesn't matter if they are ranked higher than Homer. As you said, I will prove my qualifications by defeating the ranker before a priest of Valhalla. Roman, no, heavenly demon Baek Jun-hyuk was a person who had no hesitation when he spoke his mind. Still, that was a flustering answer for others. Willis had met many people in his life, but this was his first time meeting someone who was this bold. What does he think ranked matches are? A ranked match was no child's play. Often, people risked their lives to get their name on the ranking list. It was an honorable place to be in for a swordsman, and naturally, many died for it. The implicit rule of not killing the opponent during the duel was meaningless. When strong people who had equal skills fought, the battle would intensify, and the sword failed to show mercy to the opponent. Thus, people said that rank 30 Fernando was a true gatekeeper. He never once turned down the challengers and always proved himself by accepting the fight. On the contrary, there were cowards who made names but then didn't accept a single challenge. Those sorts dropped down the ranking as the years passed, and they never wanted to fight. Still, they cleverly fought in the last year to hold on in the ranking. Nevertheless, even the strong ones didn't always welcome fights. They worked hard for the sake of wealth and fame, so dying in the hands of someone else because of a challenge wasn't something they could accept. Then, hearing Roman's words, Willis said, "Actually, as you said, initiating a new ranked match is the best way to prove your strength. However, a ranked match isn't so simple. It isn't possible to proceed with it just because you want to, and for an official ranked match, the opponent's consent has to be taken, and the time has to be scheduled as well. Think about it from another perspective. Are there any strong people in the northeast region of Cairo? No. That is also why the proclamation of your name rose higher, as finding an opponent there was close to impossible. Right, such a pity. If there was no opponent, an official ranked match was obviously impossible. Finally, there is only one way." Willis continued, "Take the test through the aura meter. With that, Mr. Roman, Dimitri will be promoted as a ranker in the Cairo kingdom." Aura meter, contrary to the grand name, it was a simple thing. It had the shape of a sphere and the size of a fist. Willis showed it to Roman and said, "The method of testing your aura is simple. If you infuse mana into the aura meter, it will change color according to the mana. 1 star is red, 2 star is orange, 3 star is yellow, and 4 star and above is green." For reference, you, Roman, have defeated Homer, who was 4 star, so you need to get a minimum of 3 star, which is yellow, to take the last place in the ranking. In that, too, it must be dark yellow. Do you understand? I understand. There was nothing special about it. The only thing one needed to do was just infuse mana. Roman received the sphere from Willis. He hadn't seen the sphere anywhere else, and he thought it was interesting. Unlike Murim, the Salamander continent is a world where magic has developed. Considering that there is a tool to measure even the power of someone, magic cannot be overlooked. What kind of an existence is a mage? Are the mages like the shamans of Murim or superhumans who have reached the state of God? Roman looked at the aura meter. He couldn't understand it, yet he also felt curious. How will the aura meter react if I release aura in the way the aura swordsmen of this world do? The way the aura was used was different in the two worlds. If the aura swordsman of Salamander manifested a huge amount of aura at once, the swordsmen in Murim condensed their mana into a thin layer and refined it as well. That was also the reason everyone who saw Roman's aura was always astonished. Even when what Roman used seemed like a 1-star aura, its power was so astounding that his opponents were always overwhelmed and doubted if he really was using a 1-star aura. Aura explosion, it wasn't that Roman couldn't do it. He understood its principle, but he still didn't use it as it was too inefficient for his battles. It will be fun. For once, he judged it wouldn't be bad to follow the way of the new world. If the aura meter was crafted to measure the aura explosion, then Roman decided that he would have to do it like that as well. How can a magic device even evaluate his power? At first, he was just curious, and then, he thought this was a good chance to test it out. Start. Once Willis said that. Grab. Roman grabbed the aura meter and then began to infuse his mana into it. Chapter 71. Unofficial Rancor. Part 4. When Roman infused his mana, the aura meter responded immediately. Wong. It caused vibration. The once grayish aura meter quickly changed colors, starting with red and progressing to orange after that. The change in color was quick and smooth. According to what was generally known, the measurement time of an aura meter was usually around 5 minutes, but for Roman, it didn't take that much time. The meter turned yellow soon enough. It was so swift. In just 5 seconds, the aura meter had already touched yellow. Willis was stunned. What he just witnessed meant Roman was clearly a 3-star aura swordsman. Willis gulped as he watched the series of changes, and his heart began to pound intensely. 4-star? It was shocking. Willis had used the aura meter many times, but never had he seen a change as fast as Roman's. A 4-star aura swordsman. Usually, the color of the aura meter changed at regular intervals. However, the changes Willis saw when Roman was using it were beyond his common sense. Naturally, he was confused. He glanced at Roman's face. Looking at the peaceful face, his eyes trembled. Nevertheless, Willis was making a big mistake. He thought Roman had drained all his mana by using all his might at once, but actually, he hadn't even started yet. When he first infused mana, he only infused a small amount to test the meter. It wasn't the salamander continent's way, but the aura meter was violently shaking just from that. This is really fun. A tool that measures the power of an aura by color. After confirming that the aura meter was safe, Roman went straight to the point. Just like mana explosion. Aura explosion was based on gathering mana. And when Roman let out quite a bit of mana at once, the aura meter reacted as if it would explode at any moment. Grinning. Rumble. A roar could be heard from the aura meter. The color, which dyed the aura meter yellow, soon changed to green, and the color which had turned green turned paler, until it couldn't get any darker. This was not a normal scene. Even Willis had no idea on how he should deal with this situation. Finally, the aura meter shone with darkness. And... crack. Crack. It just crumbled. Watching the cracks on its surface, Willis only stood there, dumbfounded. He turned his gaze from the broken aura meter to Roman and then back to the aura meter. This is insane. This was a result that went beyond anything normal. What is an aura meter? It was a device first produced by combining knowledge by putting all the human resources known on the continent together. According to its description, certainly, the aura meter would never show any other color apart from those mentioned for. And it was also said that the aura meter would never ever break during an aura evaluation. In fact, to check its durability, an archmage and a 6-star aura swordsman were brought in. And the result was that nothing out of the ordinary happened. Even when a 6-star aura swordsman had infused his mana, it only shone green, and there was no abnormality with the aura meter. It was an item perfect for evaluating someone's level. Then how did this happen? His head was filled with complicated thoughts. He wasn't sure how to accept the results in front of him. Was it broken? No, it wasn't. Before coming to Dimitri, he had ensured that the aura meter had no problems by checking it. Then, there was only one possible conclusion. Just as the aura meter showed a violent reaction when it came in contact with Roman, the shattering also had to be a special case because of Roman. Roman asked, "Is this broken?" "It isn't. As this is an unusual result, I cannot say for certain what this is." But Willis didn't continue any further. He had seen it clearly. Before the aura meter broke, it definitely shone green. He was certain that wasn't a lie, so Willis was sure of one thing. Roman Dimitri is a 4-star aura swordsman. 4-star, thinking of that, his mouth got dry. Just being 3-star could be considered one of the greatest things for someone who was of Roman's age. This meant that the possibilities for the future of Roman were endless. He was easily a talent who could aim for 5-star and higher, and Willis was certain that his talent would eventually be discussed all over the continent. However, a 4-star in his 20s? This was an entirely different thing from 3-star. If he had the talent to reach 4-star at the age of 20, he couldn't imagine just how much Roman would grow in the future. This is a huge deal. Roman Dimitri isn't a sleeping dragon but a monster that has already taken the form of an adult. Did such a monster live within Dimitri? Actually, if this fact gets known to the outside, not just Cairo but the entire Salamander continent will become a mess. Even the Empire will move at that fact that a talent that can reach 6-star has emerged. Originally, he had to reveal the results once the evaluation was finished. It meant he needed to reveal to Roman that he was 4-star, instead of just 3-star, and that he was absolutely qualified to be in the rankings. However, the empire that created the Valhalla Temple in Cairo had a purpose. Thus, he couldn't tell the truth until he had confirmed everything he wanted to. Eventually, Willis said, "This is the first time this has happened, so I don't think we can make a hasty decision now. I am sorry, but I will have to look into what happened and tell you the results within a few days." As he had expected, he needed to study Roman Dmitri profoundly. Willis would now take advantage of the information guilds of the empire. Who was Roman? Information that grasped everything from his birth to recent steps would come to him in a day. Roman Dmitri. Until the age of 25, he lived a not-so-special life. He was nothing more than an ordinary noble family's trash, and his own people thought of him to be a fool and ridiculed the son of their lord. However, his reputation changed starting from his incident with the Blood Fong. He subjugated the entire Blood Fong by himself, and then, he intervened in the war between Barco and Lawrence, and defeated Homer as well. His life completely changed after he turned 25. The reason was unknown. Did he obtain some special sign? Or did he train alone in a place out of sight of others? The sure thing was that Roman Dmitri had awakened. He began to live like a new person and fully revealed his talents to the world. Flip. He turned the page, and finally, Willis saw the incident with Barco. It was the shocking incident of when he visited Viscount Barco in his own estate and killed his own son in front of his eyes. Willis was terrified even though he had only read it. This guy is insane. Roman was bold. His actions were completely out of Willis' common sense. If he had left Barco alone, they would have collapsed by themselves at one point, but he went ahead and killed Barco's son personally. Others might think that it was simply cruel. However, when he saw everything Roman did and how he dealt with things, Willis felt as if Roman had planned everything out beforehand. Roman Dmitri never did anything in the dark. When subjugating the Blood Fong, he destroyed the organization in an instant by taking down their leader, and in the war against Barco, he used Lawrence's troops to distract Barco and attacked them from the rear. And to make sure that Barco could never get back up, he visited them and crushed their hopes. The audacity to take risks with his life on the line and execute his plans perfectly. Roman Dmitri isn't just a monster with a 4-star aura but someone who knows to use his head as well. As he read about Roman's recent actions, he admired him. Although he was as warlike as the people of Valhalla, he possessed a calm judgment as well. Only one thing left. I will check the results of the aura meter and then make the final decision. Willis had to know the reason why the aura meter had suddenly broken down. He had sent the wreckage to a magic guild, and the results arrived within 2 days. The content was the following. There is nothing wrong with the aura meter. The fact that it turned black and broke down can only mean that an intangible force was applied to it, which the aura meter couldn't handle. Also, the result of shining green was normal. As I thought. As he expected, Roman was truly a 4-star aura swordsman. Now, Willis acknowledged that it wasn't because it broke down that the aura meter showed this strange result, but Roman had actually risen to 4-star in his 20s. It was an unbelievably great result. Even when he first visited Dmitri, he never imagined he would see such a result, but Willis had finally found the target he had been looking for a long time. Roman Dmitri, he isn't a talent whose verification has to be skipped. Willis immediately contacted his home nation. The ranking system had originated from Valhalla. But why did he contact them? Did the Valhalla Empire manage the rankings of other nations as well? Most people thought it was simply Valhalla's inclination, but the hidden truth wasn't that. I will put Roman Dmitri on the list, Willis reported back home through magic communication. Valhalla wasn't just a barbarian nation that was all about fighting. They knew how to act cleverly enough that they built the status of an empire and even devised a way to use the tradition of the ranking system to bring out the talents of the other nations into their own. Actually, it became very easy to do so because most people considered the ranking to be an honorable position. All the talented people in each nation hoped to be a ranker, so Valhalla, even though it only had a small number of people, formed an empire and was able to identify the talented ones of other nations. Willis explained his reasons for coming and explained what he knew about Roman Dmitri. When the one on the other side of the communicator heard the way he handled things and about his 4-star talent, he said, "He is definitely a talented person. Raise Roman Dimitri's rating to A, keep an eye on him, and find a way to sign him for us." As I said, security is the most important thing in recruiting talent from other nations. People cannot know that we are trying to snatch the talents of other nations under the name of a ranking system. We must bring Roman Dimitri to Valhalla as naturally as possible. I understand. A rank, it was a great evaluation. So far, only one person in Cairo has had such a rank. Therefore, the meaning of A rank was the same as them showing their will to sign in Roman instantly. And Willis said, "Tomorrow morning at daybreak, I will go to Dimitri and inform Roman that the Orometer's readings were incorrect. Roman Dimitri will be announced a 3-star instead of a 4-star, and I think it would be good to finish the task by saying that he has taken the last place in the rankings. And we will proceed with the preliminary work for Roman's recruitment. Just being in the rankings at the age of 25, when he is from a small nation like Cairo, is still enough to cause an uproar." As Willis finished his words, the communication also finished. And the next day, the entire Cairo kingdom was shocked by Willis' announcement. As Willis expected, Roman's actions shocked people when they heard the announcement about the youngest ranker, even though they had only heard a part of it.